have a few city council members here. Come on up right now. Come on up here. And Mayor, if you watch the stairs. We got one more here. He's sucking his ice cream down. Our city council voted unanimously to purchase Chuckanut Ridge. Let's have a hand. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you also voted unanimously on the plastic bags. The plastic bag ban in Bellingham, fighting for the sea turtles. Do we have a cool city council or what? And right here, this is Gene Knutson. Gene's been a champion for Chuckanut Ridge longer than I've been working on it, and we really appreciate it. Gene, Terry Borneman. And Terry has been a champion on this longer than I've been working on it. Also, Seth Fleetwood has also been working on this forever. And Barry Buchanan. Thank you, Barry. We really appreciate it. Take a good look at these guys. Remember who voted for what. All right. Watch the stairs there. Well, we did it. We did it. We've been working on this for 31 years, if that number is correct. There's been many generations. We still have hoops to jump through. We still have to raise additional funds, but we will do that. But this is the big hoop. This is the commitment. This is where the entire community says, yes, we're going to add another giant, big, beautiful park to our big, beautiful city. And what a... And this is a very special place, and it's not just because we live here and not just because we love it. This is one of the rare places where the Cascade Mountains, where the Sierra Madre come down and touch the ocean. So many people have helped for so many years. It's impossible to name everyone. I know some of our speakers will be thanking many of you, but a huge portion, if not everyone in this room, has worked to help in one way or another to save Chuckanut Ridge. Adults have worked on this. Young children have worked on this. It's really phenomenal. People have stuffed hundreds of flyers, turning out 500 people at a time to meetings in rooms like this. People have been designing bumper stickers and posters. People have been putting on benefit concerts, doing sound, filming videos, on and on and on, baking cookies, going to meeting after meeting after meeting, standing at the copy. We have many, many, many hours have gone into this. And that's really anything beautiful and good in a community, like a city park, like an excellent hospital, like an outstanding school, like a wonderful, any institution takes years of commitment and good people working hard, and that's why we're here tonight. So thank you and congratulations. Tonight's victory isn't just a victory for the primates. Tonight's win is a victory for the coyote and the raven and the salmon and the deer, who all share our beautiful town with us, and we're so lucky to have them. It's a victory for the whales and the clean water that's going to come out of the Chuckanuts. Bellingham, the creation of a new park in Bellingham, and we're still working on the park part, I realize that, but that's where we want to go with this. It makes the city better for everyone, and Bellingham has consistently voted yes on greenways, yes for more parks, yes for more playing fields. We love it here. We love to live here. We love to play hard. We love our parks, and we're going to keep voting yes. And as the more parks, the better. Not everyone who has worked on protecting Chuckanut Ridge is here tonight. Many of us have moved away. Some of us are no longer living. We want to remember all those people who have put this together. So now I'd like to introduce our first speaker. We have a few speakers that will say a few words on this. And 4 years ago, I called up Dan Pike, and I asked if we could get together and talk about Chuckanut Ridge. And Dan Pike very graciously came over to my house, and I was talking about habitat and this and that, and he was listening patiently, and then I stopped, and he goes, yeah, I used to jog through there in my college years. I love that place. We got to save it. And I'm not used to people talking to me that way. I was like, really? That's really cool. And it takes vision and courage and commitment and persistence to create something beautiful like a new park in a city. And Mayor Pike has shown all of those qualities in leading the city to the recent purchase of Chuckanut Ridge. I really appreciate your efforts on this. I'm also really proud of your strong stand on the coal trains. Yeah. Yes, when we're up against big forces, there's no questioning that. But when the people of a small city stand together, when the people of a region stand together, and towns all the way from here to Spokane and on to Missoula stand together, and we have the leadership from a mayor in the key town taking a strong and distinctive position. It's like, no way. That's how we can win, and we will win. And I predicted we'd be here for this celebration a few years ago at one of the hearings, and I'm going to predict today that in some time we're going to have another really big celebration when we beat the coal trains and we stop the coal port. So, thank you. But without further ado, our fearless leader on Chuckanut Ridge and the coal trains, Mayor Dan Pike.
Boy, what a night. Thank you. Thank you. You know, luck is found at the intersection of opportunity and hard work. And so I want to say, you know, some people say we got lucky, and we did. But we got lucky because there were a lot of persistent folks in this room, and as Dana said, some who are no longer here for a variety of reasons. I get to stand up here and get accolades for something that really is standing on the shoulders of an entire community. The people in this room and many, many more. As Dana said, I first became aware of Chuckanut Ridge when I lived in the barracks, which some of you are old enough to remember. And I will confess, back then I did trespass in Chuckanut Ridge on occasion, but I think the statute of limitations has gone out. And the present ownership, I think, will forgive me, and the future ownership is all of us. So I think I'm okay at this point. But it is a special place in this community. It's a place that many of us have spent a lot of wonderful times in and had a lot of wonderful experiences in. And we want to preserve that for our children and for their children, and for the animals and the flora and the fauna that exist there today, so they can continue being there going forward. And thanks to the City Council that stepped up, thanks to so many of you who stepped up for so many years and refused to let go. I mean, persistence, the rock in the stream thinks it's winning, but you come back after a while, the rock isn't there and the stream's still going by. So persistence is a great, great attribute. Never underestimate it. But you know, the opportunity came because there was a partnership opportunity that opened up. You know, I believe that when change happens, we have a tendency to say it's bad or it's good. And I think that what it turns out to be is what we make of it. And so when Horizon Bank failed, that was a hard thing for a lot of people in this community. A lot of people lost resources. There were people whose jobs were lost. But a new bank stepped forward and took over those assets. And I had a lot of people over the past couple of years. It's been a couple of years, year and a half anyway, since Washington Federal came forward. And one of the first things that I did is I said, we want to buy. The city wants to make an offer on Chuckanut Ridge. And their response is, we really want to sell it to you. And they do deserve applause for that. And, you know, like any new relationship, there's always sort of that trust building phase. And I think they weren't sure all the time exactly where I was because we were new to each other. And I wasn't always sure where they were. They wear ties, so that's not a big thing in Bellingham, so it always makes me a little nervous. But I've told people this before, and I want to tell it to all of you. Every step of the way where there was a conversation where I walked away having to trust what they said, when it came time to prove their integrity, it always proved rock solid. And the older I get, the more I value integrity. So let me tell you, we have a very welcome new member to this community in the Bank of Washington Federal. They have been great assets, great allies. Without them, none of us would be here tonight. And I'm not going to go and try to name a lot of other names, but there are a couple of people here that I think deserve mention because of the length and persistence of their commitment. And I'm going to start with Dr. Gibbs. So I'm going to ask something I don't usually ask. I'd like a standing ovation for Dr. Gibbs because of all the people here. It is important to honor people who do the right thing so persistently and so consistently as Dr. Gibb has done. So thank you very much. The rest of them don't need standing ovations. I just thought that was special. But also I saw Joe Yaver, president of Responsible Development here. I see Jody Bergsma here, Frank James. There's many, many people. I saw Brad Rose from the Edgemore Neighborhood Association. There's a lot of folks that I know have been doing this for a long time. Dudley Evesnon is doing the sound on this, so I'll mention it so he has to edit it if he doesn't want to hear his name, but it's going to be here. I mean, Dudley and Dean. Sorry, Dudley's sitting, Dean's behind the camera. So many people to thank, but I just wanted to get a few of those names out there because they deserve to hear their names spoken in public with pride by their community. So I want to thank everyone here. Everyone has had a piece in this, and I want to thank all of you for what you've done to make this a good community. Community, you know, I worry sometimes about our country. I worry about our state because civic engagement seems to be fading at those levels. But I have no fear about the future of this community as long as we have the kind of civic engagement that made this happen tonight. So thank you all very much. Stay engaged. There's lots to do, but you know, we won this one. Thank you all very much.
The torch has been passed from leaders for many generations, and I want to invite up the current torch holder for the leader of the citizens movement to protect Chuckanut Ridge. Talk about diligence and persistence. Where are you, Frank? Is he back? There he is. He's right here. Frank James. Let's hear it for Frank James. Woo!
There's a lot of thank yous, and people are going to do a much more systematic job than me. But what I want to talk about was really about community, about leadership, and about friendships. We need to thank Dan Pike, our mayor. We need to thank other people. But there are a lot of other people that make things happen, and you don't always know them. We live in a place where the mountains meet the shore. That's why I live here. It's the most beautiful place in the world. You can be in snow-peaked mountains, and you can be out in the San Juans on the same day. There just aren't. I've traveled the entire planet. I leave after tomorrow for East Timor. Last year I was in Taiwan, India, China. This is the most beautiful place there is. I checked them out. But more than place, it's people that matter. It's really the people that love the land. It's those that are not only the present people, but the future people. My granddaughter's back there, and my son is right here. My granddaughter's 2 months old, and she's who's going to East Timor to live with her mom. And my son, Tai Ming, is only 7, and he's here to help me out tonight. You want to hold this for me like I told you? Thank you. Thank you. You got it? Very good. There are people from the very beginning that were inspirational, and these aren't people we talk about much, but Ken Hertz. Ken had a vision for what this county could be, not just this community, and he had a vision that he carried out, that he acted on. Most of the parks in our county are because of Ken's vision. It wasn't just Ken. There were other people. Bill Dietrich was a man that I knew as a young man, and Bill's passed. But he was a leader and a visionary that kept all of us moving forward. He's somebody that inspired me when I was 18 years old. He's one of the reasons I'm here. There were other people there. Ann Eisinger. Is Ann here tonight? Ann is a person, she's a technical expert on wetlands and other things. And she went and she inventoried the entire city of Bellingham of where all the special places were that we should preserve. And Chuckanut Ridge was one of them. And she eloquently, accurately, and passionately described each of those places. And it gave us the ammunition to get started, to say this is a special place. It's not just my feeling. A competent technical professional has assessed it and really knows that it's the right place. We need to help Yeah. There are a lot of other people. There are cultural leaders. Clyde Ford, I don't think, is here either tonight. Clyde, are you out there? Clyde, most of you know Clyde as the black man in town. There are a couple. He's also an amazing author. He's written a number of books, and he took this issue and he put it into a major novel. And I'm glad that things have changed. Maybe we should go back and he didn't have to write a new book. But Chuckanut Ridge figured prominently into his book, Precious Cargo. And the bank that participated then was not a very nice bank, and the developer was even worse. If you haven't read it, it's worth a read. He and Dana and Swilcanum did a reading and music for that really made it poignantly clear that the community didn't want this to happen. There are other people. Dana and I get mentioned. We were the founders, really, of responsible development, kind of the third wave in this effort. Christina McHugh, though, who's sitting over there nursing her baby, Christina was the other co-founder, and the world is held, the skies and the heavens are held up by women. And nursing mothers. Another thing you need to make change is you need money. And there were a lot of people that donated. One of the people is Keith D'Angelo. Keith is back there because I saw him. At one point, we wanted to bring in a technical expert that understood the financial part of how these things work. And we wanted to bring Eben Fodor. And Eben Fodor, we had to come up with $4,000 on short order. And he did a study of how this property and all properties get developed and what the costs are to the community. And when we did that, what we found out was we would pay $12 million in additional taxes to provide the infrastructure for this development. When Eben came to town, he filled up the entire county council chambers with people flowing out into the street. And as much as Eben gets a lot of credit for that, it's people like Keith D'Angelo that was able to write the check and make it happen. Because without people willing and able to do that, the rest of us can't do our part of the job. But the financial story I really want to share with you is that the thing that made me stay in this, because I got a bunch of emails and a bunch of calls that said, you persevered, buddy. Good work. But the time that I got hooked, the Ericksons back there, so they're standing at the first row in the back there. Their daughter came up to me, and she gave me a $1,000 check. Not from her parents. It was her money to go to college. She'd earned that money. I wanted to give it back. But when I took it, I knew that I had to finish. And she lived across the street from this, and she spent time there, and she loved this place, like a lot of people do. But it's people like that, Jen, you wouldn't even hear her name or know about her, but I want you to know about her. The irony, the really good humor about it was that the check was drawn on Horizon Bank, and it was a $1,000 cashier check. And because it was a $1,000 cashier check, it was signed by the president of the bank. We don't have the check, but I have a picture of it. You also need other kinds of people on the team. Dave Brickland couldn't make it, but Dave Brickland is a Harvard-trained lawyer. And when we got serious about this, we began to raise money and knew that we were going to be toe-to-toe with serious-minded people. I went to Dave and I said, Dave, we need your help. And he said, okay. And I said, how much are you going to charge us? And he said, I'll give you my Robin Hood rate. Which he did. But I'll tell you, there's nothing more reassuring than being able to turn to a Harvard-trained lawyer that specializes in land and say, what's the deal? What are the facts? What's inconvertible? The old guy's already been mentioned. When Bob and his lovely wife started a long time ago, she's passed now, and she means something to everybody in this room. She was the person behind Bob that helped him do those things, and I've watched him make that transition to life without her. When I said this is about community, that's what it means. It's community, it's friendship, it's going through those hard times. I mean, Bob is a Republican precinct, and I'm a knee-jerk liberal, and I'd do anything for that man. And I know that he would support me. Those are the kinds of friendships that matter over time. Some of the other leaders that don't always get mentioned, responsible development, some people paint as a South Side rich guy thing. Our board has had people on it from Point Roberts from the beginning. John Lesau has been on our board from the very beginning, from Point Roberts. You have to go to Canada to get there. Linnea Fleury from Ferndale has been on our board from the very beginning. And Wendy Setter, the queen of the saddle between King and Queen Mountain, she's out there now too. She was on our board too, out-of-towners. She's right back there. It's a partnership between everybody. When there's value, everybody recognizes it. This isn't about our backyard. This is about our entire community. There are recent people too. Nacito, did you make it? Are you here? I needed a poster made. Those posters in the back there. And I needed one done tomorrow. There's an error on it, by the way, because it was after midnight when he was putting his baby to bed with an ear infection that he got up and finished making that poster. It's a beautiful poster. It's got Jody's artwork in it. It's gorgeous. I do want to put one plug in here, and the plug is this, that we're selling them. See the poster in the back there? That's $30 for the big one, $3 for the little one, so everybody can have one. But what that money's going to go for, it's going to go for the stewardship of this land, for protecting the wetlands, for making us make that transition between the bank owning it and living in, not being able to do that stewardship, and the city owning it when they're going to be more robustly doing it. But that transition, we as citizens in this community own. And so we're selling those posters, $30 for the big one, $3 for the little one. Everybody can have one. I don't want to take any home. Is going to begin the fund that's going to allow us to care for that land. There's a bunch of kids out there building bicycle trails right through the middle of one of the wetlands, a Category 1 wetland that is responsible for the salmon in 2 different streams in our city. We got to protect it. But people like Nacito Canetti, he stepped forward at the last minute and did an extraordinary job. And he deserves thanks, like a lot of other people do. There's one other person I want to mention because they don't get mentioned either, and that's John McLaughlin, the guy with the bicycle. There's lots of things to be said about John, but he's a Stanford graduate. He's a brilliant biologist. He studies wonderful things, but I don't know if he owns a car, but I've never seen him in one. When he did you have a fractured foot? He had a fractured foot, and he's bicycling with 1 foot. Well, that's commitment. And when you talk to John, Stanford graduates are usually smart, right? There's a reason he does it. He's setting an example for all the rest of us that can be done. We don't need these cars. They don't need to rule our lives. John's also a brilliant biologist that helped us identify what's out there and why it's worth saving. It's dramatically important. Well, I talk way more than my fair share, but I've been working more than my fair share. I want to now introduce another person, and just by way of introduction, I got to tell you that when Washington Federal came to town, I thought, another big bank, an even bigger bank, $1 billion bank. We are in trouble. And they had a reception at the Bellwether, and there's a bunch of really rich hoity-toity people there. Everybody had a tie. But I went to that. I was invited to it, and I was first impressed they knew who I was, and secondly, that they would bother to invite me. Maybe it's because I'm a doctor. I don't know. But when I got there, 2 things happened. The very top people from the bank came over and talked to me. Now, there were a lot of rich and famous people in that room. It was filthy with rich and famous people. And they spent 15 minutes, 2 of them spent 15 minutes each with me when there were people standing right there waiting to talk to them, waiting. And I had their undivided attention to say what I needed to say as a representative of our community. That changed my heart. And it changed my brain a little bit, but it mainly changed my heart. The man I want to introduce now is Roy Whitehead. And Roy is, I took a little time to learn about him. He's chairing King County's United Way. You don't often see the bank presidents chairing United Way. United Way is for poor people. Here we got a rich guy doing something really nice for poor people. But that's not all they do. They do low-income housing. They do services for seniors as policy, as what they're giving back to the community. I think most importantly, and what's most relevant to us, is that they also provide jobs. And one of my biggest worries, I was happy as could be when Horizon went down, but I also knew people that worked there. And I was very glad that a responsible, thoughtful, considerate human beings came in to take over that bank to make sure those jobs are there. Because it's good to have parks, but you also got to have the jobs for the people working in the community. They're committed to both those things, not one or the other, but both. You don't often find that. Roy, come on up.
Oh, stop. Thank you. You know, humility has always been one of our unspoken values at Washington Federal, going back, I think, to, and I mean that quite sincerely. Bankers can be sincere. And it really goes back to our Scandinavian roots in Ballard. You know, we were founded in 1917. It was a mutual organization that came into existence so that neighbors could, who had the money to save, could do so for the benefit of those who need to borrow to buy homes. And so we've got this sort of caring attitude towards our communities that comes from our very roots, and we think it, we feel it, we believe it every single day. And the other reason, though, that you know, humility is something that's very important to us is because we've seen what greed and hubris can do to people. And it never comes to a very good end, does it? When we want more than what we really deserve from the planet and the society that we live in. And so, you know, I think it would be fair for us to say, in keeping with all of those traditions, that our view is that we played a very small role in the event that we're all celebrating this evening. But we are nonetheless thrilled to be here, and we are very, very thankful for the recognition, because it does come at a time when even honorable banking institutions like Washington Federal are more likely to be vilified and used as cannon fodder for the political machine for their own ends. And so I've got to tell you, this is way better. And for that reason, because of what we have come to expect in a very, very difficult time for all of us in terms of our treatment by governmental entities, it would be impossible for us to overcompliment Mayor Dan Pike, the City Council, and the incredible staff that the city has here in the city of Bellingham. I haven't heard them mentioned tonight, but we dealt with many of them, and they are very, very competent people. And because of the collective calmness and professionalism of both the elected officials and the staff, we had the time to be enabled to work through what was a very, very complicated process. And just to tell you how complicated this was, we actually ended up suing ourselves and having to go before a judge. You know, so we're spending money to defend ourselves and to sue ourselves at the same time just to work through this. That's how complicated this whole thing was. So anyway, we're quite pleased for the recognition. We're thankful for the time. It really did restore, I think, our faith, and certainly helped my faith, that communities can come together despite all of the different vantage points that each of us may have on a particular issue, despite all the differing opinions that may exist within a community, and certainly that exists within healthy as well as unhealthy communities, and make great things happen. But it takes leadership, and you are really, really fortunate to have that here in the city of Bellingham. More importantly, I think you know, I'm here tonight to say thank you for your patience, particularly during that year and a half when we really couldn't say anything about our intentions relevant to this property because of the ongoing litigation. You were pretty nice to us under those circumstances. We're thankful for that. But I also just want to say congratulations to, and I'll include us in this, congratulations to us as a community for doing something great and for preserving this property and dedicating it to public use. May it always be so. And just thank you so much for recognizing us for the little part that we played. Thank you.
We are so happy to be here. We've been to this room with many of you here over the 20-year period. In fact, it was in 1990 when we received a letter from Bob Tull, the lawyer for the Madrona Corporation, informing us and the many neighbors in this area that there was going to be a 1,400-unit development that was going to happen in the forest right across the way. It just so happened we had moved to Bellingham from Arizona, and I felt like in a way we were planted on that hillside. because we looked out across the ridge from the other side, from the Fairhaven, over by 24th Street. And we thought, oh, this is so beautiful and so natural. We'd hear the coyotes and we'd, just see so much deer. In fact, we just saw deer in our yard yesterday, and it felt like home. We'd been in the desert a long time, so it was wonderful to be in this magical rainforest. We heard that first summer that there were going to be a few houses built up there, and then in October we got a letter that said there were going to be 1,400 houses on 100 acres, and we're like, what? This can't be. So needless to say, we came to the meeting at Fairhaven Middle School. I don't know if it was this room or another room. I think they might have done some renovation, but it was the same school. And we all were horrified to think of that many houses happening. And so we exchanged phone numbers. We didn't have email at the time. And we decided to form an organization. So that winter, in 1991, we formed an organization called Interurban Neighbors. And it was based on the fact that one of the aspects of the development was that they wanted to build an arterial road from Chuckanut Drive over to 24th Street that would go through the forest there. And we said, no, that just can't happen, because the Interurban Trail is one of the most popular trails in Bellingham, and people come from all over the region to enjoy it. We thought this is not a good thing. So we said at the time, we don't know what is going to happen, but we know for one thing, we are going to get to know our neighbors. And yes, here we are. We know each other. We know each other so well, and it's been wonderful to experience this. I remember, I think it might have been the second year we were dealing with this. We finally walked up there, and it was winter, and we thought, oh my goodness, look at all this wetness. It's of the ponds and wetlands and the contiguous wetlands and Class 1 wetlands. And wetlands were just becoming realization. We didn't, prior to that, developers would, wetland, we'll just fill it in and build houses on it. In fact, much of Lower Manhattan is built on filled-in areas. So we have since learned, such as examples like Katrina, because so much of what was formerly wetlands became walled in, and then it became disastrous when the water started flowing. But we did realize there's a lot of wildlife up there. And I used to it was also the time of the first Gulf War, and I remember I would just stay up late at night and worry and just lament about the problems of our world. I remember going to a concert with some women from Fairhaven College, and one of the women said, oh, isn't it terrible what's happening in the world these days? But I have the perfect solution. I stay up all night and worry about it. And that's what was happening, because it was so deep. We were just feeling it so deeply. And we'd never been activists in that way. And we have a music company, and we create peaceful relaxation music, but we weren't used to doing that sort of activism. But, sometimes when things happen, you just go ahead and rise to the occasion. So if you look back, if you haven't had a chance to, I've saved every article and newsletter and pictures and all sorts of things up there. There's a really nice history back there. You can see a lot of the work that many people have done. In fact, Skye Bergsma, Jody's daughter, there's a letter she wrote when she was 8 years old. Anyway, it's kind of fun to just see the evolution of this project, because we worked on it for about 6 or 7 years, and then one of the things that happened with our friend Serene, who's here in the audience, Patricia Decker, the new sitting planning director at the time, she came on a walk in the woods. We said, let's go for a walk in the woods. You don't even know what's up there, because I believe the zoning had changed in such a way, and it was we were trying to how did this happen? How do we get so much zoning in this certain area? And what happened, it was a trade-off. It was a trade-off because the city apparently wanted to build that arterial road, and they needed the developer to have that high level of density, and so therefore we got this unrealistic density up in the forest where nobody had even ever walked, and plus when it probably was approved, they didn't even know that wetlands were that important. So we said, come, let's go for a walk in the woods. And I believe Dr. Gibb, you came with us on that walk. Brady Green was there, Patricia Decker, Bob Tull, representatives from the the owners of the property. And we walked up there, and Brady Green helped us identify all of the habitats and the deer fawning areas, and showed us where the wetlands were and the runoffs. And so after that meeting, Patricia Decker, the planning director, said, okay, developers, you need to make a bubble map, and you need to say which are the important areas that need to be preserved. Obviously, you can build some places, but you can't build every place. So they created this bubble map, and I remember we went over there with Serene, Dean and I did, and I think maybe that was all that went, a few other people maybe, but there were 35 acres that were okay to build on out of the 100. And in the meantime, they donated about 16 to 18 acres of the Class 1 wetland, which they couldn't build on anyway. So now they only had 84 acres, and they were still going to build the 1,400 houses, et cetera. So it kept going, and we made videos, and Dean will share a little bit about his vision and how it happened. Videos after videos after video. Jim Johnston, who's a wildlife biologist, was, I believe he's here tonight. And we're going to show a little short clip of that video in a few minutes. But I'd just like to thank everybody for how this has evolved, and let Dean just say a few words, and then we'll just share a little music.
To walk through the 100 Acre Wood is a joy journey, a terrific experience that opens the inner being to the miracles of natural life. Our first walk through Chuckanut Ridge is what inspired us to passionately pursue putting aside this magical wonderland for future generations, for the now of intimate exhilaration, and for the natural life of the critters and plant world that is alive in our most precious plot of land. As the civilized world continues to encroach upon the Earth's natural systems and life forms, it is so important for us as a species interested in survival to ensure that there are areas that are left to be, just left to be, natural and free of immediate and long-term threats of extinction. We can survive as a species by working and playing together to support all those efforts that see the future and the now, needing the wisdom of Mother Nature in the form of as many sanctuaries of natural life as in as many places as we can possibly provide. The joy is in the breathing in of the miracle of life and absorbing the wonderment, diversity, and miracle of life and mutual dependency of the many life forms found in natural environments such as our 100 Acre Wood. It is a peaceful bubbling of energy that is so refreshing in our compartmentalized, computerized cacophony we are all saturated in these days. Let us continue to question the massive energy of blind development, saying no to the destructive systems such as ripping coal from the earth to fill our skies with destructive emissions, and by refusing coal's passage through our domain. We can make a difference in our present world and in our future by choosing the path of peaceful, sustainable joy that emphasizes life and denies self-destruction. Thank you.
So because some things happen even beyond our wildest imagination, let's all just take a moment and feel the energy of the mystery, the magic, and the miracles that are available at all times. And feel our gratitude for Mother Earth and for the powers that be when they align to allow such things happen as what's happening here in this community.
quite a few people have started to leave, and I was going to do the wrap of the evening and ask all of you to take a moment and look at each other in this room, and I'm going to give a brief 3-minute history of the development of events that led to this evening. And I'm going to ask many of you to stand, and I would like you to look at these people and look at the faces of those that have given of their life, time, family time to make this evening happen. For you to realize how many years has gone by, I would just like my daughter to stand. Sky is here. She was 3 years old when we had our first meetings for interurban neighbors. And even when she was 8 and wrote her first letter, we were just beginning the Greenway campaign #2. So 20 years, what really is 20 years? And how many lives have played a role? So some of the people have left, but if you are still here, I ask you to stand. History has told us that committed people can change things, and this is your special history. When I read your name, I ask that you stand. In 1990, a small group of visionaries proposed the first Greenway levee, and it passed. The idea was to build an interconnecting trail system throughout Bellingham. Some of these first and important dreamers were Ken Hertz, Tim Wall, Rick Fackler, and Sue Weber. 1 year later, in 1991, another group called the Interurban Neighbors came together. They were dedicated to preserve the neighborhood, which was then called the 100 Acre Wood. Dean and Dudley Evesnon, Richard Schultz, and Serene Stevenson were filled with fire, and others joined. Dana Lyons, Tim McHugh, and other surrounding neighbors. A big thank you to Professor Ann Eisinger, Brady Green, Herb Brown, and David Mason. Politicians Tim Douglas, Foster Rose, Arnie Hanna, and Louise Bjornson. City employees Patricia Decker and James Luche and Byron Elmendorf. Citizens Rand Jack, Tip Johnson, Brad Rose, Christopher Granis, Clyde Ford. A few years passed, and in 1995, a large-scale development in Fairhaven was proposed, 1,400 units on 84 acres. The huge complex called Chuckanut Ridge galvanized many. 300 citizens and a pivotal meeting at the Fairhaven Library sent out a loud and clear cry. New players came to the table: Dr. Frank James, Bob Gibb, Joe Yaver, Seth, Julie, and Hugh Fleetwood, Peter Fraser, Bob Bess and Matt Chrisman, Barbara Zylstra, Clinton Gorst, Jess Brewster, Robin Dupre, Wendy Setter, Michael Javario, Bill Snow, and Wellspring School. Amy Vergen, Gail Smedley, Dake Traphagen. Why aren't you guys standing up? Come on, if I read your name, would you please stand, Gail? Come on. Up, 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 yeah. Bobby Vollendorf and myself. Meetings continued at the library, and Daryl Hilaire and other tribal members joined the growing cacophony. We were advised that if we wanted to save Chuckanut Ridge, we would need a visionary citywide levee. In 1996, a massive campaign petition drive was launched, which included $20 million levee called Greenways 2. This levee proposal passed with a strong margin in 1997. Woo! And included $3.5 million of dedicated funds to buy land in South Bellingham. But try as we could to make it happen, things went sideways, and none of the proposed parcel, the 100 Acre Wood, was purchased. But the fire was burning brightly, and in 2001, another group grabbed the torch. Responsible Development, formed by Dr. Frank James, Dana Lyons, and Christina McHugh. They engaged legal counsel Dave Bricklin and Burke Mulvaney, city council members Barbara Ryan, Jean Knutson, and Terry Borneman, tribal members Chattiscate and Wichtelum, Swill Canum and Juanita Jefferson, county citizens Patrice Clark, Jerry Wilbur, John Lesso, Rudy Schad. Rudy, you didn't stand up. Woo! Dr. Gibb, Keith D'Angelo, Dr. Larry Freeman, Eben Fodor, Sarah Cook, Gracie Close, Kim and John Erickson, Rick Dubrow, Joanne Peterson, Marianne Rangel, Linnea Flary, Bernie Waltz, Kathy McKenzie, Christopher Granis, John McLaughlin, Larry Horowitz, Mike and Ann Botwin, Jonathan Yee, David Carlson, and Paul, Sierra, and Matthias James. Woohoo! To all of you, I say thank you. Responsible Development made their presence known with their bright red signs and public debates. Everyone from Greenbrier and Horizon felt the incredible pressure. This dedicated team of dreamers would not give up, even though sometimes things seemed hopeless as the value of Chuckanut Ridge escalated. It was now 2006 and time for Greenways 3. 15 years has gone by, and patience has become everyone's virtue. Paul Luthold, Sue Kenny, Dave New, Dale Lowry, Laurel Cook, Sue Taylor, Stan Snap, Jack Weiss, Dr. John Hodge, and John Blethen of the Greenway Committee proposed the third levy. New political advisors arrived, Joy and Don Keenan, Michael Lilliquist, and Barry Buchanan. People hotly debated Greenways 3. I don't know if you remember some of these arguments we had, but we worked together, fought together, and ultimately knew we all needed each other. It was quite a team. Greenways 3 passed. Then a miracle occurred beyond anyone's expectation. The economy reversed, Horizon Bank and the developer lost control of the property to a new owner, and now our heroes, Washington Federal Bank. This dramatic reversal created an astounding new environment which allowed negotiations to begin between the city of Bellingham through its representative, our mayor, Dan Pike. I want to take this opportunity once again to thank the bankers, Greg Peck, Tom Kenny, Jack Jacobson, and Roy Whitehead, CEO of Washington Federal Bank, for your help in bringing this dream to a reality. I enthusiastically thank the mayor and the current city council for their incredible vision in this last thank you. If you're still here, please, all of you, acknowledge Barry Buchanan, Terry Borneman, Seth Fleetwood, Gene Knutson, Michael Lilliquist, Stan Snap, Jack Weiss, and former council members Louise Bjornson and Barbara Ryan. You had the power and voted yes, and we thank you. If there are any names, I beg your forgiveness. There are a list of names at the back of the room. We would love for you to add your name to the list. And for all of you, if you will just stand and look at one another, and we'll give one more round of applause to all of us as I say this last quote. I'm reminded that the greatest oak was once a little nut that held its ground. Long live the 100 Acre Wood. Thank you, everyone.
I am so proud to be a member of this community. I can't tell you. Been watching this unfold for years. I'm just so proud. So this is a song that always seems to fit. So we have a few new words. So I'll sing the first line, and then you'll sing after that, and then the last line will always be the same. Any more musicians want? Well, we got a pretty